Emma Richards was running late. Again. The 28-year-old kindergarten teacher zigzagged through the bustling Manhattan crowd, her worn leather bag slapping against her hip with each hurried step. Rain pelted the city streets, turning her carefully styled curls into a damp, frizzy mess. Her phone buzzed incessantly. Principal Walters, no doubt, wondering where his usually punctual employee was on the most important day of the school year, Donor Appreciation Day. Just one more block, Emma muttered, clutching her pathetic umbrella as it flipped inside out for the third time. A taxi splashed dirty water across her yellow sundress, the one she'd spent half her paycheck on for today's event. Perfect. Just perfect. She ducked into Grounded, her favorite coffee shop, desperate for the liquid courage needed to face a room full of wealthy parents and potential donors. The warmth enveloped her immediately, the scent of freshly ground beans offering momentary comfort. That's when she saw him. A tall figure stood at the counter, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He rummaged through his pockets with increasing frustration, his expensive watch catching the light as he moved. "I could have sworn I had my wallet," he muttered to the barista, whose smile was rapidly fading. A line was forming behind him, customers checking watches and sighing loudly. Emma knew that feeling, the hot shame of holding up a line, of not having enough. Before she could think better of it, she stepped forward. "I've got it," she said, pulling out her nearly maxed-out credit card. "Whatever he's having, add a vanilla latte too, please." The man turned, and Emma felt her breath catch. He was striking, not conventionally handsome like the actors in romantic comedies, but something better. Strong jawline, intelligent green, eyes that crinkled at the corners, and a look of genuine surprise that transformed his serious face. "You don't have to do that," he said, his voice deep and warm. "Pay it forward, right?" Emma smiled, trying to ignore how her heart had started racing. "Besides, you look like you're having a worse morning than I am, and that's saying something." The barista handed over their drinks, and Emma grabbed hers, already turning to leave. She was now dangerously close to being fired. "Wait," the man called. "At least tell me your name." "Emma," she replied, backing toward the door. "Emma Richards." "I'm Jack. Jack Foster," he said, raising his cup in a silent toast. "Thank you, Emma Richards. I won't forget this." She nodded, forced a smile despite the butterflies doing somersaults in her stomach, and plunged back into the rain. What Emma didn't know as she sprinted toward Sunshine Elementary was that Jack Foster wasn't just any man who'd forgotten his wallet. He was Jack Foster, the notoriously private tech genius behind Foster Innovations, worth an estimated $12 billion. A man who bought coffee companies, not individual coffees, and he was watching her yellow dress disappear into the crowd with a look his executive team would have been shocked to see. Wonder. Back in his sleek corner office overlooking Central Park, Jack found himself distracted from the acquisition. Papers his CFO had been trying to get him to sign for weeks. "Jack, did you hear what I said about the Tokyo deal?" Matthew Weber, his longtime friend and business partner, waved a hand in front of his face. Sorry, Matt." Jack blinked, the image of warm brown eyes and a genuine smile still floating in his mind. "Where are you today? We have the board meeting in 20 minutes. Jack twirled a pen between his fingers. Have you ever had a complete stranger do something nice for you, expecting absolutely nothing in return? Matthew laughed. In New York City? No. That's why we have doormen and assistants, to shield us from having to interact with strangers at all. Jack nodded slowly, looking down at the coffee cup still on his desk. The barista had written his name with a little smiley face, something he'd never noticed before. I need to find someone, he said suddenly. We have people for that, Matthew reminded him. What's going on? Jack stood, straightening his tie with newfound determination. I think I just met the most genuine person in Manhattan. and I didn't even get her number. What Jack didn't realize was that finding Emma Richards would be both easier and more complicated than he could possibly imagine, and that a simple cup of coffee was about to change both their lives forever. Emma's day had gone from bad to catastrophic. After arriving at Sunshine Elementary 20 minutes late, soaking wet, and clutching her rapidly cooling latte, she'd been greeted by Principal Walter's disapproving frown and a roomful of impeccably dressed parents and potential donors. Her presentation about the school's art program, the one she'd stayed up until 2 a.m. perfecting, went reasonably well until the projector died mid-speech, leaving her to frantically gesture at a blank wall while describing the children's vibrant artwork. Now, as she trudged up 4 flights of stairs to her tiny apartment, Emma couldn't help but think about the handsome stranger from the coffee shop. There had been something different about him, a genuineness beneath the expensive suit. Not that it mattered. New York was a city of 8 million people. The chances of seeing Jack again were about as likely as winning the lottery she couldn't afford to play. Home sweet home, she sighed, pushing open the door to reveal her cozy but cramped studio apartment. Her roommate, Zoe Spencer, a struggling Broadway dancer with flaming red hair and an opinion on everything, was sprawled on their secondhand couch, feet propped on a stack of fashion magazines. "You look like you've been trampled by tourists in Times Square," Zoe observed, munching on cereal straight from the box. "Donor day that bad?" "Worse," Emma kicked off her ruined shoes. "I was late, looked like a drowned rat, and pretty sure we're not getting that playground equipment anytime soon." She collapsed beside Zoe. "But I did have a moment this morning. Met a guy." Zoe sat up straighter, suddenly interested. "Define met." "I paid for his coffee because he forgot his wallet. He was cute. We exchanged names. That's it." "That's it? No number? No accidental brush of the hands? Emma Richards, we need to work on your meet-cute skills." "It wasn't a meet-cute," Emma protested, though the butterflies in her stomach suggested otherwise. "It was just a nice moment in an otherwise terrible day." Zoe smirked. "Was he wearing a wedding ring?" Emma thought back. "No ring." "Name?" "Jack. Jack Foster." Zoe choked on her cereal, spraying crumbs across their coffee table. "Jack Foster? As in Foster Innovations' Jack Foster, the tech billionaire who dated that Victoria's Secret model last year?" "What?" "No," Emma laughed. "This was just a regular guy in a nice suit." Zoe scrambled for her phone, pulled up a browser and shoved it in Emma's face. "This guy?" Emma's laughter died in her throat. There on the screen was undeniably her Jack. Those same intelligent green eyes, the strong jawline, the slight crinkle at the corner of his eyes. Only here he was shaking hands with the president, accepting some kind of innovation award. "That's impossible," Emma whispered. "Girl, you bought coffee for one of the richest men in America." Zoe was practically bouncing. "This is straight out of a movie." "It's straight out of a misunderstanding," Emma corrected, her cheeks burning. "He probably thought I was an idiot." Or, Zoe waggled her eyebrows dramatically, "he was charmed by your authenticity in a world of people who only want something from him." Meanwhile, across town in his penthouse apartment overlooking the Manhattan skyline, Jack Foster was doing something he hadn't done in years, using social media. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, scrolling through what felt like thousands of dear Emma Richards profiles. "I run a tech company. Finding one person should not be this difficult." His phone rang, Matthew for the 3rd time that evening. "Still stalking your coffee savior?" Matthew asked without preamble. "I prefer conducting research," Jack replied, rubbing his tired eyes. "And failing miserably. You know, normal. Billionaires just date supermodels who slip them their numbers." "That's exactly the problem," Jack sighed. "Every relationship I've had since the company took off has been calculated. This morning, that woman had no idea who I was. She helped me because she's kind, not because I'm Jack Foster. So what's your grand plan? Canvass every elementary school in Manhattan? Jack's finger hovered over his screen. Elementary school? What? She mentioned being late for something. Important at a school, Jack said, suddenly remembering. And her bag. It had little paint handprints on it. You noticed her bag? Matthew sounded incredulous. She's a teacher, Jack said with growing certainty. Now I just need to figure out which school. The next morning, Emma was helping 5-year-old Hugh Riley wash purple paint from his hands when Principal Walters appeared at her classroom door, looking uncharacteristically flustered. Ms. Richards, could you step outside for a moment? Emma frowned. Is everything okay? More than okay. Potentially extraordinary. Principal Walters lowered his voice to a whisper. There's someone here to see you. About a substantial donation to our arts program. Emma's heart leapt. Had one of yesterday's parents been impressed despite her disaster of a presentation? I'll be right there, she said, quickly helping Riley dry his hands. As she stepped into the hallway, smoothing her simple floral dress, Emma froze. Standing beside Principal Walters, looking both completely out of place and yet somehow perfectly at ease. Among the children's artwork and alphabet posters was Jack Foster. Her Jack. The billionaire Jack. He smiled, that same genuine smile that had made her heart skip yesterday. Hello again, Emma Richards. Beside her, Principal Walters made a strange choking sound. You know Mr. Foster? We've met, Emma managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Once. Over coffee, Jack added, his eyes never leaving her face. Best cup I've ever had. Emma stood frozen in the hallway of Sunshine Elementary, acutely aware of her paint-stained fingernails and the glitter inexplicably stuck to her left cheek. Jack Foster, actual billionaire Jack Foster, was standing in her school, looking at her with those captivating green eyes as if she were the most fascinating person he'd ever encountered. Mr. Foster has expressed interest in making a significant contribution to our arts program, Principal Walters explained, practically vibrating with excitement. He specifically asked to speak with you about your vision for the program. My vision? Emma echoed, struggling to find her footing in this surreal moment. Perhaps we could discuss it over lunch, Jack suggested smoothly. If you can spare the time, of course. Principal Walters answered before Emma could even open her mouth. Ms. Richards would be delighted. In fact, take the rest of the day. For the arts program. Such an important cause. And that was how Emma found herself walking beside Jack Foster toward a sleek black car, acutely conscious of her target dress and sensible teaching shoes. How did you find me? She finally asked as his driver held the door open. Jack's confident expression faltered slightly. Would, with great difficulty, sound less stalkerish than the truth? Despite herself, Emma laughed. Try me. I had my assistant call every elementary school in a 5-mile radius of that coffee shop, asking if they employed an Emma Richards. After 17 calls, we found you. That's thorough. I prefer determined, Jack replied as the car glided into traffic. I wanted to properly thank you. For a $4 coffee? For your kindness, he corrected. It's been a while since someone did something for me without an agenda. The restaurant Jack had chosen was so exclusive it didn't even have a sign. Outside, just a discreet door and a host who greeted Jack by name. Emma tried not to gape at the elegant interior, the Michelin stars, or the well-known actress dining in the corner. So, Ms. Richards, Jack began once they were seated in a private alcove. Tell me about your arts program. Emma blinked, surprised. He was actually serious about that part. Well, our students come from diverse backgrounds, many from underserved communities. Art gives them a voice, a way to express themselves when words fail. As she spoke, her initial nervousness melted away. This was her passion after all. She described the children's enthusiasm, their creativity, and how limited resources meant reusing supplies and often purchasing materials with her own meager salary. Jack listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. He wasn't just nodding. Politely, he was genuinely engaged. "What would you do with unlimited resources?" he asked after their main courses arrived. Emma laughed. "Is that a hypothetical?" "Indulge me." She thought for a moment. A dedicated art room, quality supplies, guest artists from diverse backgrounds to inspire the children, field trips to museums. Her eyes lit up as she continued, painting her dream program with enthusiastic gestures that nearly knocked over her water glass. Jack caught it smoothly, his hand brushing hers. The slight contact sent a surprising jolt through Emma's system. "Sorry," she murmured, suddenly aware she'd been rambling. "I get carried away." "Don't apologize for passion," Jack said softly. "It's refreshing." Their eyes met across the table, and something shifted in the air between them. Emma was the first to look away, her cheeks warming. "Can I ask you something?" she ventured. "Why didn't you just tell me who you were at the coffee shop?" Jack considered this, absently twirling his fork. "For those few minutes, I wasn't Jack Foster, CEO. I was just a guy who'd forgotten his wallet. Do you know how rare that is in my life?" Before Emma could respond, Jack's phone buzzed. He glanced at it with a frown. "I apologize. There's a situation at the office I need to handle." Emma nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. Of course, a billionaire CEO had more important things to do than have lunch with a kindergarten teacher. "But I have a proposition for you," Jack continued. "Foster Innovations is hosting our annual charity gala this Saturday. I'd like you to be my guest." "Me?" Emma nearly choked on her water. "Why?" "Because I'd like to introduce you to people who can help make your vision for the arts program a reality." His eyes held hers. "And selfishly, because I enjoy your company." Emma's mind raced. A charity gala meant fancy dresses, important people, a world she didn't belong in. "I don't think—" "Just consider it," Jack said, handing her his personal card. "My private number's on the back. Or if you prefer, I can arrange for a more substantial donation to your school either way." "This isn't about money," Emma said reflexively. Jack's expression softened. "That's exactly why I'm asking you, Emma Richards." After the driver dropped her back at school, Emma found Zoe waiting in her classroom, having apparently charmed her way past the front office. "You went to lunch with Jack Foster," Zoe stated, wide-eyed. "Jack Foster? How did you even know?" Emma asked, collapsing into her tiny teacher's chair. "The entire school is buzzing about the billionaire who showed up asking for you. So, details." Emma recounted the lunch, ending with the gala invitation. "You have to go," Zoe declared without hesitation. "And wear what?" "My one decent dress got ruined yesterday." "We'll figure it out." Zoe waved dismissively. "This is a real-life Cinderella story." Emma rolled her eyes. "It's not like that. He's just being nice because of the coffee thing. And he wants to help the school." "Emma," Zoe fixed her with a serious look. "Billionaires don't track down women who buy them coffee just to be nice. He's interested in you." "That's ridiculous. Men like him date supermodels and socialites." "And yet?" Zoe grinned, tapping the business card in Emma's hand. "He gave you his personal number." Later that night, Emma stared at the card, tracing the embossed letters of Jack's name. She thought about the way he'd listened to her, really listened. How for a moment the vast gulf between their worlds hadn't seemed to matter. Before she could overthink it, she picked up her phone and typed a message. "This is Emma. About Saturday. I'd love to attend." Across town, Jack was in the middle of a tense meeting when his phone buzzed. Reading the message, a smile spread across his face, prompting raised eyebrows from his executive team. "Good news?" Matthew asked. "The best," Jack replied, pocketing his phone. Now, where were we? I can't breathe, Emma whispered, tugging at the borrowed dress that Zoe had somehow procured from her cousin who worked in fashion. You look stunning, Zoe assured her, making final adjustments to the midnight blue gown that hugged Emma's curves before flowing elegantly to the floor. Jack Foster won't know what hit him. Emma stared at her reflection, hardly recognizing herself with her normally wild curls tamed into an elegant updo and subtle makeup enhancing her features. The dress, a designer piece that would have cost 3 months of her salary, was simultaneously the most beautiful and most intimidating thing she'd ever worn. This isn't me, she said quietly. Zoe met her eyes in the mirror. The dress isn't you. The shoes aren't you. But that woman who cares so deeply about her students that she lights up talking about them, who bought coffee for a stranger just because he needed help. That's all you, Em. The packaging is just to get you through the door. A text notification lit up Emma's phone. He's here. Downstairs, Jack waited beside his car, absently adjusting his bow tie. When Emma appeared at the top of the steps, he went completely still. She descended slowly, self-conscious under his unwavering gaze. You look... Jack seemed to search for adequate words. Beyond words. Thank you, Emma replied, trying to ignore the butterflies in her stomach. You clean up pretty well yourself. Jack grinned, the expression transforming his serious face. High praise from someone who's only seen me in rain-soaked business attire or lunch casual. As they slid into the back seat of the car, Emma noticed Jack seemed slightly tense. Nervous about your speech? She guessed, remembering he'd mentioned addressing the gala. Jack looked surprised. Most people assume I'm comfortable with that sort of thing. Most people probably haven't seen you forget your wallet, Emma teased gently. He laughed, the tension visibly leaving his shoulders. Fair. Point. I've given hundreds of presentations to boards and investors, but something about these social speeches still gets to me. Just pretend everyone in the audience has forgotten their wallet at some point, Emma suggested. Humanizes them. Jack studied her with a warm expression. You have a gift for that, seeing the human beneath the surface. The Plaza Hotel gleamed with tasteful opulence as they arrived. Emma took a deep breath as Jack offered his arm. Camera flashes erupted the moment they stepped onto the red carpet. Mr. Foster, who's your date? Someone called out. Jack guided her smoothly past the reporters with a practiced smile. Ignore them, he murmured. Inside, the ballroom took Emma's breath away. Crystal chandeliers, elaborate floral arrangements, and New York's elite dressed in their finest. She recognized faces from magazines and television, trying not to stare as Jack led her through the crowd. Jack, there you are. A tall, distinguished man approached them, his sharp eyes quickly assessing Emma. And with company. Interesting. Emma Richards. This is Matthew Weber, my CFO and oldest friend, Jack introduced. Matt, Emma is a kindergarten teacher at Sunshine Elementary. Matthew's eyebrows rose fractionally. A teacher? That's refreshing. Emma's school has an exceptional arts program, Jack continued smoothly. Which reminds me, there are several board members from the Arts Council I wanted to introduce her to. As the evening progressed, Emma found herself engaged in conversations with influential people who actually seemed interested in her passion for arts education. Jack remained attentive, his hand occasionally resting lightly on the small of her back, sending tingles up her spine. He's different with you, Matthew commented, appearing beside her while Jack was momentarily pulled away by an investor. What do you mean? Emma asked. Matthew swirled his champagne thoughtfully. I've known Jack since college, before the money, before all this. He's always been brilliant, driven, but guarded. Tonight he's lighter. Before Emma could respond, a striking woman in a red dress approached, kissing Matthew's cheek before turning her calculating gaze on Emma. Victoria, Matthew nodded. I didn't realize you were in town. Last-minute decision, she replied, her accent subtly European. I heard Jack was hosting. Her eyes remained fixed on Emma. And you are? Emma Richards, she replied, fighting, the urge to shrink under the woman's scrutiny. Victoria Beaumont, Matthew supplied. Jack and I dated last year, Victoria interrupted with a practiced smile. Before his phase of avoiding serious relationships. Emma's stomach tightened. Of course, Jack had a relationship history with gorgeous, sophisticated women who belonged in this world. Victoria. Jack's voice cut through the tension as he rejoined them. I wasn't aware you were attending. Surprise, Victoria purred, lightly touching his arm. I've missed these little events of yours. Emma watched their interaction, feeling increasingly out of place. The ease with which Victoria navigated this world, the shared history evident in their body language, it hammered home the reality of the situation. This was Jack's real life, not coffees in the rain or lunches discussing children's art. If you'll excuse me, Emma said quietly, I need some air. She slipped away before Jack could respond, finding her way to a balcony overlooking the glittering city. The cool night air was a relief after the stuffiness of the ballroom. Not quite what you expected? Matthew's voice startled her. Emma sighed. That obvious? He leaned against the railing beside her. Victoria has that effect on people. She's perfected it. She and Jack seem well suited, Emma observed, trying to keep her voice neutral. They looked good in photographs, Matthew conceded. But Jack was never himself with her. She wanted the billionaire, not the man who still eats cereal for dinner. When he's working late, Emma smiled despite herself. He does that too? Captain Crunch, it's disturbing for a grown man. Matthew's expression turned serious. Victoria is part of a world Jack inherited along with his success. The appearances, the networking, the strategic relationships. You're the first person he's brought to one of these events who makes him forget all that. The balcony door opened, and Jack appeared, concern evident on his face. Seeing them together, he relaxed slightly. Sorry to interrupt, he said, approaching Emma. I thought you might have left. Just getting some fresh air, she assured him, noticing the way his eyes searched hers. Matthew cleared his throat. I should find my wife before she corners the key. Secretary of State again. He patted Jack's shoulder as he passed. Don't mess this up. Alone on the balcony, Jack moved closer to Emma. I'm sorry about Victoria. She has a talent for creating discomfort. She's very beautiful, Emma said diplomatically. Yes, Jack agreed. And calculating, status-obsessed, and completely disinterested in anything that doesn't advance her social position. Unlike kindergarten teachers who buy coffee for strangers, Emma attempted to joke. Jack's expression softened as he reached out, gently tucking a loose curl behind her ear. Exactly unlike that. His hand lingered on her cheek, and Emma's heart raced as he leaned closer. Just as their lips were about to meet, the balcony door burst open. Jack, there you are, called an elderly gentleman. They're ready for your speech. The moment shattered, Jack stepped back, a flash of frustration crossing his features. I'll be right there. He turned back to Emma, his eyes conveying unspoken regret. Will you wait for me? There's somewhere special I'd like to take you after. This. Emma nodded, a little breathless. I'll be here. As Jack walked away, Emma touched her fingers to her cheek where his hand had been, wondering how a simple cup of coffee had led her here, almost kissing a billionaire under the stars, while the glittering elite of New York waited for his words. And wondering, with equal intensity, if she could possibly belong in his world. Jack's speech was flawless, articulate, inspiring, and peppered with just enough self-deprecating humor to charm the room. As Emma watched from her spot near the back, she couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. He spoke passionately about education and the transformative power of arts, announcing a new Foster Innovations initiative to fund creative programs in underserved schools. When his eyes found hers in the crowd, his smile became more genuine, as if they shared a secret. After thunderous applause, Jack was immediately surrounded by well-wishers and potential donors. Emma hung back, not wanting to intrude on his professional obligations. She was examining a particularly impressive ice sculpture when Victoria materialized beside her. "He mentioned you, you know," the model said, her voice deceptively casual. "Not by name, but that little anecdote about kindness from strangers. That was about you, wasn't it?" Emma shrugged, uncomfortable. "I just bought him coffee." Victoria laughed, the sound like tinkling crystal. "How charmingly modest, but we both know there's more to it than that." She sipped her champagne, studying Emma over the rim. "You seem nice, so let me give you some advice about Jack. This," she gestured between them, "won't last. Jack goes through phases. Last year it was adrenaline, skydiving, racing, dating a model. Now it's authenticity and social consciousness. You're his experiment with real life." Emma's chest tightened. "You don't know me." "I don't need to," Victoria replied, with practiced sympathy. "I know Jack. When the novelty wears off, when board members start questioning his judgment, when you can't navigate his world, he'll move on." She touched Emma's arm. "It's not personal. It's just reality." Before Emma could respond, Victoria melted back into the crowd, leaving her words hanging in the air like poison. An hour later, Emma found herself in Jack's private car, heading downtown. Despite her attempt at casual conversation, Victoria's words echoed in her mind. Was she just a novelty? Jack's experiment with real life? "You're quiet," Jack observed, studying her profile in the dim light. "Just processing," Emma replied. "Your speech was wonderful." "I meant every word," he said, then hesitated, especially the part about kindness from unexpected places. The car slowed to a stop, and Emma realized they were in front of the coffee shop where they'd first met. Grounded was closed at this hour, the interior dark. "Why are we here?" she asked, confused. Jack smiled mysteriously. "I know the owner." Of course he did. He probably owned the building. He led her to a side door, producing a key. Inside, the darkened coffee shop felt intimate, the shapes of tables and chairs softened by moonlight filtering through the windows. "When I was starting Foster Innovations, I practically lived here," Jack explained, turning on a single light that cast a warm glow. "I couldn't afford office space, so Elaine, the owner, let me work from the corner table as long as I bought a coffee every few hours." Emma ran her fingers over the worn wooden counter. "I didn't know that." "Not many. People do. It doesn't fit the narrative of the tech wunderkind who went from dorm room to boardroom." Jack's expression was wistful. "When I made my first $1 million, I offered to buy the place. Elaine refused, but she did let me invest enough to renovate, without changing its character." "Is that why you came here that morning? Nostalgia?" Jack nodded. "Bad habit from the old days. When I need to think, I come here. No assistant, no security, just me and my thoughts." He moved to the espresso machine. "Coffee." Emma laughed. "You know how to use that thing?" "I worked here for 3 months during the roughest patch," Jack replied, his hands moving with surprising expertise. "Elaine said if I was going to take up space, I might as well make myself useful." He produced 2 perfectly crafted lattes, complete with foam art, a heart on one, a star on the other. "Impressive," Emma admitted, accepting her cup. They settled, at a corner table, the quiet of the empty shop enveloping them. "Why did you bring me here?" Emma asked finally. Jack considered his answer carefully. Because this is the real me. Not the gala, not the penthouse office. This place, he gestured around them. This is where I became who I am. And who is that, exactly? Emma challenged, Victoria's words still stinging. Someone who got lucky with good ideas and timing, Jack replied simply. Someone who sometimes forgets his wallet and gets reminded of kindness by kindergarten teachers. Emma stared into her coffee. Victoria seems to think I'm your latest phase, slumming it with the commoners to feel authentic. Jack's expression darkened. Victoria excels at creating insecurities. It's her superpower. But is she wrong? Emma persisted, forcing herself to meet his eyes. Is this, whatever this is, just an experiment for you? Jack reached across the table, taking her hand. Emma Richards, I have never been more serious about anyone in my life. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. I've dated women who wanted Jack Foster, CEO. Women who saw me as a status symbol, a stepping stone, a prize. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. You're the first person in years who's seen just Jack. The guy who forgets his wallet, Emma murmured. And makes a mean latte, he added with a small smile. She couldn't help returning the smile, feeling the weight of Victoria's words lifting. So what happens now? Jack hesitated. That depends on you. My life is complicated. The press, the scrutiny, the expectations. It's a lot to ask someone to step into. I'm a kindergarten teacher, Emma reminded him. I handle 25 tiny humans with developing impulse control every day. I think I can manage a few photographers. Jack's laugh was genuine, his eyes crinkling at the corners in the way that made her heart flutter. God, you're incredible. He stood, tugging her gently to her feet and into his arms. This time, there was no interruption as he lowered his lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deepening as Emma's arms wound around his neck. Time seemed to suspend as they stood in the empty coffee shop, the place where their story had begun. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Jack rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since you handed me that coffee cup. Worth the wait, Emma whispered. Beyond words, he murmured, capturing her lips again. Later, as they walked hand in hand along the quiet streets of nighttime Manhattan, Emma felt as though she were floating. The elegant gown and borrowed jewelry no longer felt like a costume. They were just details, unimportant against the backdrop of whatever was blossoming between them. Jack's phone buzzed in his pocket. Checking it, his expression changed from contentment to concern. What is it? Emma asked. Nothing, he said quickly, returning the phone to his pocket. Business. But the carefree moment had shattered, and Emma could feel him withdrawing into his thoughts. Jack, what's wrong? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's the Tokyo deal, the one I've been working on for months. There's a problem with the negotiations. He checked his watch. I should get you home. You don't have to. I want to, he insisted, his smile returning, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Tonight has been perfect. I don't want anything to ruin that. As they drove back to her apartment, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The easy connection they'd shared in the coffee shop felt suddenly fragile against the reality of Jack's world, a world of international deals and corporate crises that couldn't wait for romance. At her door, Jack kissed her again, but she could feel his mind elsewhere. I'll call you tomorrow, he promised. Emma nodded, trying to ignore the seed of doubt that had taken root. Good luck with Tokyo. Inside, she found Zoe waiting up, eager for details. But as Emma recounted the evening, the gala, Victoria's warning, the magical moment at the coffee shop, and the sudden shift. Her roommate's expression grew troubled. "So the billionaire whisked you away, confessed his feelings, kissed you senseless, then suddenly remembered he has an empire to run?" Zoe summarized. Put that way, it sounded like the beginning of a letdown. "He'll call tomorrow," Emma said, more to reassure herself than Zoe. As she hung up the borrowed gown, Emma caught sight of herself in the mirror. Her lipstick slightly smudged from Jack's kisses, her eyes bright with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Had Victoria been right after all? Was real life, with its kindergarten classrooms and forgotten wallets and simple coffee dates, ultimately incompatible with Jack's world of galas and global business deals? Or had she finally found someone who could see past her modest circumstances to the woman beneath, just as she saw past his billions to the man who made lattes in an empty coffee shop at midnight? Only time would tell, and Emma Richards had never been very good at waiting. 3 days. 3 days had passed since the magical night at the gala, since Jack had kissed her in the empty coffee shop, since he'd promised to call. 3 days of Emma checking her phone between classes, of crafting and deleting text messages, of Zoe's sympathetic glances, and Principal Walter's excited inquiries about your billionaire friend and potential donations. 3 days of silence. "He's ghosting you," Zoe declared bluntly as they shared a pint of ice cream on their couch Thursday evening. Classic billionaire move. Remember that tech guy who dated Jennifer Lawrence for like a minute? "Jack's not like that," Emma defended, though doubt had taken firm root. "He said there was a business crisis," which conveniently gave him an exit strategy. Zoe scooped another spoonful of chocolate chip. "Face it, Em. Victoria was right. You were a novelty and now reality's kicked in." Emma wanted to argue, but the evidence was damning. No calls, no texts, not even an assistant reaching out with apologies. Just silence, as if their connection had been nothing but a brief, glittering fantasy. By Friday morning, Emma had resolved to move on. She threw herself into preparing for her class's art show, staying late to mount paintings and arrange the classroom for parent visitors. The donations Jack had connected her with before his disappearance had materialized, enough for new supplies, and even a visiting artist program. But the professional victory felt hollow against her personal disappointment. As she hung 5-year-old Lily's abstract masterpiece, Emma heard a throat clear behind her. Turning, she found Principal Walters with an odd expression. "Ms. Richards, you have a visitor." Emma's heart leapt traitorously before she forced it back down. "I'm pretty busy with setup." "It's Mr. Foster's associate," Walters continued. "A Mr. Weber? He insisted on seeing you personally." "Matthew?" Emma's confusion deepened as she followed Walters to his office, where Jack's CFO waited, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. "Ms. Richards," he greeted, dispensing with small talk. "Do you watch the news?" "Not since Tuesday," she admitted. "I've been busy with the art show." Matthew nodded as if this explained everything. Jack's been in Tokyo. The deal was falling apart. He had to go personally to salvage it. "He could have called," Emma pointed out, pride making her voice cooler than intended. "He tried, the first day. But then..." Matthew hesitated. "There was an incident. The negotiations turned hostile, and a competitor leaked details to the press. Jack's been in 16-hour crisis meetings for 3 days straight, dealing with fallout that could potentially tank the company." Emma felt suddenly small. While she'd been assuming the worst, Jack had been fighting for his company's survival. "Is he okay?" she asked quietly. "Physically, yes. Otherwise..." Matthew shrugged. "I've known him 15 years. I've never seen him like this. Why are you telling me this?" "Because he's landing at JFK in an hour, and instead of coming straight to the office to deal with the remaining mess, he's insisting on attending some elementary school art show." Matthew fixed her with a pointed look. "Apparently it's important to someone he cares about." Emma's heart skipped. He's coming here? Now? If the plane lands on time. Though fair warning, he hasn't slept more than 3 hours a night since Tuesday, and he's turned down multiple acquisition offers that would have solved everything. Matthew studied her curious expression. He says none of it matters if he loses. What really counts? After Matthew left, Emma moved through final preparations in a daze. Parents and students began arriving, filling the classroom with excited chatter, but she found herself checking the door every few minutes. An hour into the event, Emma had given up hope. She was explaining a collaborative mural to an interested parent when a collective murmur swept through the room. Turning, she saw Jack in the doorway. He looked exhausted, his suit rumpled, dark circles under his eyes, his usually perfect hair disheveled. But when his gaze found hers, his whole expression transformed. Emma excused herself and made her way through the crowd, stopping a few feet from him. "You're here," she said simply. "I should have called," he replied, his voice rough from fatigue. "I tried that first night, but then everything imploded, and He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "That's not an excuse. I'm sorry." Matthew explained. "Something about the company potentially tanking?" Jack shrugged, as if the potential loss of billions was inconsequential. "It's been a rough week. Yet you're here, at an elementary school art show. I made a promise to someone important." His eyes softened. "More important than any deal." Before Emma could respond, a small voice interrupted. "Are you Ms. Richards's prince?" They looked down to find Lily, her face smeared with cookie crumbs, staring up at Jack with undisguised curiosity. Jack knelt to her level. "What makes you think that?" "Ms. Zoe told Ms. Carmen that Ms. Richards met a prince who took her to a ball, but then he disappeared like in Cinderella." Lily's explanation was matter of fact. "But now you're back. Are you gonna marry her?" "Lily," Emma exclaimed, mortified. Jack, however, seemed delighted by the child's directness. "I think that might be moving a bit fast," he told her seriously. "But I did come back to apologize for disappearing. That wasn't very prince-like. Of me, was it?" Lily considered this gravely. "You should give her flowers. That's what my daddy does when he's sorry." "Excellent advice," Jack agreed, rising. "I'll remember that." As Lily skipped away, Emma couldn't help but laugh. "Sorry about that. Filter development is still in progress at this age." "She's fantastic," Jack said, watching the child rejoin her friends. "Direct, honest. Reminds me of her teacher." Emma felt her cheeks warm. "Jack, why are you really here?" "Matthew said there's still a crisis to handle." "There is," he admitted. "Foster Innovations is facing the biggest challenge of its existence. I have about 72 hours to decide whether to sell to competitors, restructure the entire company, or fight a potentially unwinnable battle." "That sounds like something that requires your full attention." "It should be." Jack stepped closer. "But all I could think about during those endless meetings in Tokyo was you. How I'd promised to call. How I was failing at the one thing that actually mattered." Emma's heart raced. "Your company matters, Jack. It's your life's work." "It's a company," he corrected. "I built it once. I could build another. But some things..." His voice softened. "Some people are irreplaceable." Around them, the art show continued, parents and children moving through the displays. But in that moment, they might as well have been alone. "I've been thinking a lot about balance," Jack continued. "About what matters. Success means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with, someone who sees you, really sees you." "Like the man who makes lattes at midnight?" Emma suggested softly. "Exactly like him." Jack took her hands in his. "I can't promise I won't have to fly off to Tokyo again, or that there won't be late-night crisis calls. but I can promise that you will never be an afterthought, Emma Richards. Not ever. That's a pretty serious promise from someone who forgot. His wallet on our first meeting, she teased, though tears pricked at her eyes. I'm hoping you'll still spot me the occasional coffee. His smile was tender as he reached into his pocket. Though I did bring my wallet this time, and something else. He produced a small, flat box. Inside was a delicate silver pendant in the shape of a coffee cup. To remind us both where we started, he explained as he fastened it around her neck. And that sometimes the most extraordinary things begin with the simplest gestures. Emma touched the pendant, emotion tightening her throat. It's perfect. There's something else. Jack looked suddenly nervous. Foster Innovations is at a crossroads. Whatever happens, I'm considering relocating our headquarters. Where to? Here, New York, permanently. His eyes held hers. If I had a good enough reason to stay. Emma's breath caught. Are you asking me to be that reason? I'm asking if there's a chance, if we have a chance, at something real. Jack's voice was vulnerable in a way she'd never heard before. Because if there is, I'll fight for this company. I'll fight for us. I just need to know I'm not fighting alone. Emma thought about their worlds, so different yet connected by something that transcended wealth or status. She thought about the man who'd appeared bedraggled on her classroom doorstep after crossing the world, who knelt to speak honestly with a 5-year-old, who saw value in her modest dreams for her students. You're not alone, she whispered, rising on tiptoes to kiss him. The classroom erupted in applause and giggles. They'd completely forgotten their audience of parents and kindergartners. Emma broke away, laughing against Jack's shoulder as he wrapped his arms around her. Does this mean Ms. Richards found her prince? Lily called out, prompting more laughter. No, Emma replied, looking up at Jack with a smile. I found something much better. I found someone who needed coffee. 3 months later, the headline of the business section read, Foster Innovations Survives Takeover Attempt, CEO Credits, Coffee and Perspective. Emma read it with a smile as she sipped her morning latte, made by Jack in the kitchen of his penthouse, soon to be their penthouse, once she finished the school year and they returned from the summer in Italy that Jack had planned. Foster Innovations had not only survived, but thrived, with Jack's new education technology initiative, inspired by a certain kindergarten teacher, attracting investors and positive press. The relocated headquarters now included a dedicated Foundation for Arts Education, with Emma serving as an advisor while maintaining her teaching position. And every morning, without fail, Jack Foster, billionaire, innovator, and notorious workaholic, took the time to make 2 cups of coffee, one for himself and one for the woman who had changed his life by simply offering kindness to a stranger. Some said it wouldn't last. The teacher and the billionaire, from worlds too different to mesh. Victoria had sniffed to the press about Jack's charitable phase, continuing longer than expected. But Emma and Jack knew what others didn't, that true connection transcends circumstance, that authentic love isn't intimidated by different worlds, and that sometimes the most important business decision a person can make is to follow their heart. And it had all begun with a simple cup of coffee.